Most men over 45 make a silent mistake every day, and this habit destroys their vitality, mobility, and potentially their lifespan without them knowing it. This mistake is ignoring the signals that their legs send them. Because your legs, after 45, are not just there to carry you from point A to point B, they are the truest mirror of your overall health. And what I'm going to show you in this video may radically change the way you view your body. Stay until the end, because I will give you a test you can do at home in less than 30 seconds. Get in. And this test predicts your risk of mortality with a precision that few medical assessments can match. And I will also explain to you why what your doctor tells you about your legs is often incomplete. Not because he is lying to you, but because the current medical system treats the consequences, not the causes. You deserve to understand the causes. On this channel, we do not sell miracles. We provide you with information based on science, tailored to the biological reality of a man over 45 years old. No general speeches, no impossible injunctions. Just what works, explained clearly. So let's start with something I want you to do mentally. Check the boxes that apply to you. Do you sometimes feel tingling, numbness, or burning sensations under your feet, especially in the evening or at night? Are your ankles or feet sometimes swollen at the end of the day? Are your legs restless at night? Do you sometimes have to massage or move them to fall asleep? Do you frequently experience muscle cramps, especially in your calves? Does your leg strength seem less than it was 10 years ago? Does climbing stairs or getting up from a chair require more effort than before? If you check 2 or 3 of these boxes, do not ignore them. Each of these signals taken separately may seem trivial. Together, they can indicate silent biological processes that, without intervention, worsen over time. And here's what conventional medicine often does. It tells you it's just age, prescribes something to alleviate the symptom, and moves on. What is common is not what is inevitable. What I am going to explain to you today is why these signals appear and what you can concretely do to slow them down or reverse them. Let's start with the first signal, the most ignored, but potentially the most revealing: tingling, numbness, or burning sensations in the feet. This phenomenon is called peripheral neuropathy, and in a man over 45, it should be taken as a serious metabolic alarm signal. Here's what happens biologically. Your peripheral nerves, those that innervate your feet and legs, are the longest nerves in your body. They extend from your spinal cord to the tips of your toes. And because they are so long and so far from the heart, they are the first to suffer when circulation or cellular nutrition deteriorates. After 45, especially in men with a diet high in refined carbohydrates or the onset of insulin resistance, what is called prediabetes, excess sugar in the blood becomes literally toxic to the walls of the small blood vessels that nourish these nerves. The result, the nerves receive less oxygen, fewer nutrients, and they begin to malfunction. The first symptoms: tingling, numbness, burning sensations under the feet, often at night because it is during rest that these neuropathic pains intensify. Here's the figure that should alert you. Type 2 diabetes primarily affects adults over 45 years old, sedentary, with the excess weight, and it often remains asymptomatic for a long time. This means that millions of men are in prediabetes or type 2 diabetes without knowing it. And neuropathy is often the first visible manifestation, even before blood sugar levels become clearly pathological. What you can do concretely: first, ask your doctor not only for a fasting blood sugar test, but also for an HbA1c test, glycated hemoglobin. This test reflects your average blood sugar over the last 3 months. A figure below 5.7% is normal. Between 5.7 and 6.4%, you are in prediabetes. Beyond 6.5%, it is diabetes. And your doctor does not systematically offer it to you if your fasting blood sugar seems normal. Ask for it. It is your right, and it potentially represents 10 years of healthy life that depend on this information. Then the fundamental solution is diet. Reducing refined carbohydrates, white bread, white pasta, white rice, industrial cookies, sodas, is the most effective documented nutritional measure to stabilize blood sugar and slow the progression of neuropathy. Serious studies show that a low-carbohydrate diet can reverse prediabetes and even early type 2 diabetes in a matter of weeks. Not in 10 years, in a matter of weeks. This is not anecdotal. It is scientifically established. Now let's move on to the second signal, swollen legs and ankles. This phenomenon, called lower limb edema, affects a significant proportion of men over 50 years old. And contrary to popular belief, it is not simply fatigue. It is an indicator that something is not functioning properly in your cardiovascular, renal, or hepatic system. Here's the mechanics. Your heart pumps blood to your extremities via the arterial system. This blood must then return to the heart via the venous system. However, veins do not have their own pump. They rely on muscle contractions, particularly in the calves, to propel blood upward. When you sit or stand for long periods without moving, which is the daily routine of most men aged 45 to 65 who work in front of a screen, this blood stagnates in the lower legs. Fluid seeps into the tissues. The ankles swell. The heart has to work harder to compensate, and if this repeats day after day, it is a silent chronic cardiovascular stress. When the swelling is persistent and does not go away after a night of rest, it may signal something more serious: early heart failure, chronic venous insufficiency, or a kidney or liver problem. Consult your doctor if this is the case. What you can do concretely: first, incorporate movement into your day, even if you work sitting down. There is a remarkably simple and scientifically validated exercise, the soleus pump. The soleus is a calf muscle that has a unique characteristic. It almost never gets tired. It is a natural pump that, by contracting, actively propels blood to the heart like a second heart in your calf. The exercise consists of sitting and slowly lifting the heels and then lowering them. A smooth, regular movement without jerks for a few minutes several times a day. Studies have shown that this exercise, practiced regularly, significantly improves blood sugar levels and blood circulation, even in sedentary men. Secondly, pay attention to your potassium intake. Potassium is an essential electrolyte that counterbalances the effects of sodium and helps eliminate excess fluid. The nutritional recommendations are 4,700 milligrams per day, a level that most men do not reach with modern diets. Avocados, spinach, sweet potatoes, bananas, legumes, incorporate these foods regularly. The third signal is restless leg syndrome. If you wake up at night with restless legs, an irresistible urge to move them, cramps, or discomfort that prevents you from sleeping, here's what you need to understand. It's not a leg problem. It's a systemic issue. And in men over 45, it is often linked to two specific deficiencies, magnesium and vitamin B1. Magnesium is involved in over 300 enzymatic reactions in your body. It plays a central role in muscle relaxation, nerve conduction, and the regulation of cortisol, your stress hormone. However, the modern diet, rich in refined carbohydrates and poor in green vegetables and nuts, is structurally deficient in magnesium. Studies estimate that more than 70% of French adults have insufficient magnesium intake. In a 45-year-old man with high stress levels, this deficiency worsens. Stress consumes magnesium, which increases stress, creating a vicious cycle. Vitamin B1, on the other hand, is destroyed by a diet too rich in sugar and alcohol. Its deficiency causes a buildup of lactic acid in the muscles and nerve dysfunction, exactly what causes cramps and nighttime restlessness. But here's the point that few sources mention for a man your age. Restless leg syndrome disrupts your sleep. And chronically disrupted sleep increases the risk of heart attack, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and accelerated cognitive decline. The link between sleep quality and male mortality after age 45 is one of the most robust in recent medical literature. You're not sleeping well, your body ages faster. It's as straightforward as that. What you can do: reduce refined carbohydrates and alcohol, supplement your diet with magnesium glycinate or bisglycinate, the best absorbed forms, and check your vitamin B1 levels with your doctor. These simple adjustments can radically transform the quality of your sleep in a few weeks. Fourth point, the risk of deep vein thrombosis. I will briefly but seriously talk about it because it is a real and underestimated risk in men aged 45 to 65. Deep vein thrombosis is the formation of a clot in the deep veins of the legs. The major danger is that a fragment of this clot detaches and migrates to the lungs. This is called a pulmonary embolism, or to the brain, causing a stroke. This is not a rare complication, and the risk factors are precisely those that many men your age accumulate: prolonged sedentariness, excess chronic stress, pro-inflammatory diet, rich in refined carbohydrates, abdominal overweight. Everything that keeps your body in a state of chronic inflammation increases the risk of clot formation. The answer is not necessarily medication-based. The answer lies in movement, anti-inflammatory diet, and active stress management. We will talk about that again in a moment. Fifth point, peripheral artery disease. It is a disease of the arteries that supply blood to your legs. With age and under the influence of chronic inflammation, high blood sugar, and tobacco, the inner wall of your arteries, called the endothelium, loses its integrity. Plaques form. The arteries narrow and stiffen. As a result, your legs receive less blood, less oxygen. The first signs, pain in the calves during exertion that disappears at rest, cold feet, thinning skin on the shins, hair loss on the legs, signs that many men completely ignore. Yet these same processes, inflammation of the endothelium, plaque formation, simultaneously affect your coronary arteries and your cerebral arteries. What happens in your legs also happens in your heart and brain. Your legs are a window into your overall cardiovascular health. A key element to protect your endothelium, which is talked about too little, nitric oxide. It is a molecule produced by your arterial endothelium that keeps your arteries soft, dilated, and resistant to plaque formation. Its production naturally decreases with age, but it can be supported by regular physical exercise, exposure to sunlight, nasal breathing, especially during sleep, and certain foods. Arugula is the most concentrated food source of nitrates that convert to nitric oxide in your body. Beets as well. Incorporate them regularly into your diet. What destroys nitric oxide? Tobacco, chronic stress, sedentariness, excessive alcohol, refined carbohydrates, and antibacterial mouthwashes used too frequently. They destroy the oral bacteria that participate in the conversion of nitrates to nitric oxide. A detail that almost no one mentions. 6-point chronic venous insufficiency. Veins have valves, small one-way flaps that prevent blood from flowing back down to the feet. With age and sedentariness, these valves become damaged. Blood stagnates in the veins of the legs. You observe a brownish discoloration around the ankles, varicose veins, thinning skin, and heavy legs at the end of the day. This phenomenon reduces oxygenation of the tissues in the lower legs, and over time increases the risk of venous ulcers, wounds that are difficult to heal. Here again, the main response is regular muscle movement, the soleus pump we talked about, and weight management. Every kilo of abdominal overweight worsens venous pressure in the lower limbs. And now, the 7th point, the one I consider the most important of this entire video. For a man aged 45 to 65, sarcopenia. Sarcopenia is the progressive loss of muscle mass related to aging. And here's why this is not a trivial subject. Muscles are not just there to allow you to lift weights. They are active metabolic organs. They contain millions of mitochondria, your cellular powerhouses that burn glucose, regulate your blood sugar, produce heat, and maintain your basal metabolism. When you lose muscle mass, you lose your main defense against type 2 diabetes, you lose your joint stability, you increase your risk of falling and fracturing, and you literally accelerate your biological aging. Here are the numbers. Sarcopenia affects 15% of men over 45 years old. By the age of 50, without intervention, muscle loss can reach 1% per year. This means that by the age of 70, a sedentary man may have lost up to half of his young adult muscle mass. The WHO classified sarcopenia as a disease in its own right in 2016. It is no longer a phenomenon considered inevitable. It is a pathology that can be prevented and treated. And here is the link that almost no one makes clear. The decrease in testosterone after 45 years old, which affects up to 40% of men in this age group, is directly related to the acceleration of sarcopenia. Testosterone is an anabolic hormone that stimulates muscle protein synthesis. When it decreases, muscle mass melts away faster. And conversely, losing muscle mass reduces testosterone production. It's a vicious circle that you can break, but only if you act now, not in 5 years. How? 3 combined levers are necessary. First lever, resistance exercise. Not necessarily intense weightlifting, but regular resistance exercises 2 to 3 times a week that create mechanical tension in your muscle fibers and trigger protein synthesis. Squats, hill climbs, resistance walking, exercises with elastic band, all of this works. And recent studies show benefits even in men aged 60 to 75 who are just starting. It's never too late. Second lever, protein intake. After 45, your body is less efficient at using dietary protein. To maintain your muscle mass, you need about 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, well above general recommendations. Spread this intake over several meals, ideally with a source of protein at each meal. Eggs, lean meats, fish, legumes, hard cheeses, vary your sources. Third lever, essential micronutrients that your body uses to build and maintain muscle. Vitamin D, of which deficiency affects the majority of French people over 45, plays a direct role in muscle protein synthesis and muscle strength. Studies show that supplementation with vitamin D3 in deficient men significantly improves strength and muscle mass. Magnesium, zinc, and omega-3s are also essential cofactors for muscle synthesis. Check your levels at your next blood test. Now here's the test I mentioned at the beginning of the video. It is the sit-stand test. A study published in 2026 on over 1,800 adults showed that the ability to get up and sit down on the floor without using hands is a significant predictor of mortality. In men, poor performance on this test increases the risk of death by 57%. Another study on balancing on one leg for 10 seconds showed that individuals unable to maintain this position had a 7-year mortality rate of 17.5% compared to 4.5% for those who succeeded. I invite you to take this test now. Sitting on a non-slippery surface, try to stand up without using your hands or knees for support. If it's impossible or very difficult, this is valuable information about your level of muscle strength, balance, and joint mobility. It's not a judgment, it's a starting point. And with a regular program of resistance exercises, progressive squats, and hip mobility exercises, this score improves at any age. Now let's recap the 3 major mistakes most men over 45 make with their legs, which accelerate all the processes we've just discussed. The first mistake is ignoring early signals, a tingling under the foot that is attributed to fatigue, swollen ankles that are blamed on a long day, restless legs at night that are accepted as normal. These signals are biological warnings. Ignoring them allows silent processes to settle in and worsen over the years. The second mistake is sedentariness. I understand that pain or discomfort makes one want to move less, but sedentariness is precisely what exacerbates all the problems we've discussed. Sarcopenia, neuropathy, venous insufficiency, cardiovascular risk. Regular movement is not a luxury for a man over 45. It is a biological necessity. Even 10 minutes of exercise spread throughout the day has a documented cumulative effect on blood sugar, circulation, and muscle maintenance. The third mistake is treating symptoms without addressing the causes. Take an anti-inflammatory for leg pain without changing your diet. Wear compression stockings without working the muscle pump. Accept fatigue without questioning your blood sugar or testosterone levels. The current medical system is too often organized around symptom management. An informed man can go further, and the tools to do so are within your reach. There you go. 7 signals to recognize in your legs, 3 mistakes to correct, and a clear understanding of what is happening in the body of a man over 45. Information that perhaps no one has taken the time to explain to you so directly. Your legs do not lie. They speak. Learn to listen to them before they scream. Before I leave you, I have a question for you, and I sincerely invite you to answer it in the comments, because your responses directly shape the next videos. Among these 7 signals, which one concerns you the most directly today? And have you taken the sit-to-stand test as a Suzuki, and what was your result? I read all the comments. If this video has provided you with something concrete, subscribe to the channel. Every week, content on male vitality after 45, without unnecessary alarmism, without miracle products, just what really works for your body at your age. Also, share this video with a man in your circle who deserves to know what his legs are telling him. Sometimes it's the most helpful gesture you can make for him. Take care of yourself. Your body has been speaking to you for years. It's time to listen.